But there's times that the size, the sound, and the brand makes a huge difference. So really fall in love with Lipless crankbaits. Just don't, I mean, this to me is the best one, but I don't throw this all the time. There's times I throw the Spro, and there's times that I'll throw the regular rattle trap. The regular rattle trap works great in the summertime. The summertime here in Florida, May, June, July, the rattle trap brand itself will outproduce most of the time the Yo-Zuri or the Excalibur. In the wintertime, November, December, January, February, when I'm trying to rip it through the grass, the Yo-Zuris, the Spros, the Team Daiwas work better, and here's why. Because a lot of times in the summertime, we're not ripping it much. We're usually dealing with schooling fish, we're making long casts, we're burning it through where they're chasing bait or whatever, and we're catching them. The Yo-Zuri will dive a little bit deeper, typically. But when you rip it through the grass on the Yo-Zuri and some of these other brands like the Spro, they'll go back to true pretty quick. A rattle trap will not always go back to true. When I say true, running perfectly straight back to you, not kilted off to the side. The rattle trap will stay off to the side a little bit longer because it's just the way that they're designed. The Yo-Zuri will get back to running true quicker. So I like it when I'm ripping it through the thick grass, and I like it in the wintertime. Those fish in the wintertime, they're very picky and they want it just right. When you rip that Yo-Zuri and it goes back to true, it's getting back down to its depth quick. You rip a rattle trap and it's going to not go back to true quite as fast. And when it's running to the sideways, it's not gaining depth. It's out to the side for a little bit. You see what I mean? Kind of a theory here I'm trying to explain. It might be a little hard to visualize, but the Yo-Zuris and the higher dollar ones, the Daiwas, they're going to get back to true quicker, and I like those a lot. And the retrieve was really neat, you know, and that's what I want to talk to you about. We can talk basics on it, but I want to give you the meat. I want to give you some things that you can do and kind of tweak these things around a little bit and catch some extra fish. The retrieve I was using that event, it was a 5/8 ounce lipless crankbait. I had it paired up on 15-pound line, and it was standard line. Back then the fluorocarbons weren't really out yet. And it was probably 1.5 to 2 foot deep where I was throwing the bait. It's pretty windy out, and just mud, no grass. And there's crabs down there, believe it or not. There's that part of the bay there, there's redfish, and there's bass, there's stingrays, there's all kind of weird stuff down there. But there's blue crabs, and that's what a lot of the bass would feed on. So I would throw that lipless crankbait out there on that mud flat and reel it, and instead of just constantly reeling it, I'd reel it and let it dig down in the mud, and then pause it for just a second and rip it one time and then pick it up again and reel. And what that was allowing that bait to do, as it was going through the water, I'll take it out of the pack here, going through the water, and I'd pause it and the bait would lay down. And this bait really, and how I figured this out, I didn't realize this until later because I started seeing all the blue crabs in my live well. As I'd run back to the weigh-in in the afternoon, I'd get back, there'd be 5 or 6 crabs in my live well every day. What's that look like? Side profile. Looks like a blue crab. So this thing would lay in the mud, and I'd rip it up again, and it would along the bottom and hitting the mud and hitting shells, and it'd lay again and then rip it up. So I was doing this ripping, not ripping like you do in the grass, but just kind of like a snatch deal, and let it blow out of that mud and settle back down. And those fish were keying on that type of retrieve. They were hitting that thing like crazy. And there was other people in this particular area on the tournament throwing lipless crankbaits, and they didn't have that retrieve. They were just casting it out and reeling it steady in. You've heard a lot of guys talk about ripping a lipless crankbait through the grass, which is very important, but you can also rip it off of cover. You can rip it just off the bottom. There's a lot of different things you can do with these baits other than just cast them out and reel them in. The point of the story is, it wasn't the color, it wasn't the way he was retrieving his bait, it wasn't anything other than 100% one knocker versus a standard rattle. So there is times that you need to have the one knocker on that will make a huge difference. And I've seen it, and I know Mike's seen it too. We're in these tournaments, you're in these big areas. I know you've seen it at Kissimmee and at Toho. You get on those big grass flats and you look around and there's 20 boats around and they're all throwing lipless crankbaits. And you see one guy over there, he's just, man, every time you look up, he's netting a fish. And you troll a motor over there close to him. Everybody's in a big circle going around like a big soup bowl. And you just notice that this one guy just keeps catching them.
Hey, I'm Pete Gluzek.
And I'm Mike Iaconelli.
And this is Bass University TV.
Welcome to Bass University TV, an online video training course where you'll learn champion bass fishing techniques from pro anglers Pete Gluzek, Mike Iaconelli, and their talented special guests.
Everywhere I go in the country, I'm trying to use these techniques because I catch big fish that way.
From on the water to in the classroom,
We want to use that bait to help make that area even smaller and really find that sweet spot.
you'll learn sound techniques and strong fundamental bass fishing skills.
You want something that's got a nice limber action, that's going to allow you to build pressure and keep those hooks pinned against that fish's mouth.
Watch hours of video content on multiple topics at your own pace for a low monthly fee. Cancel at any time.
Hold on, because you're going to catch some big fish.
Information is power in the sport of fishing, so learn from the very best.
That's a key theory in all of fishing.
Subscribe to Bass University TV today.
Man, does it trigger a lot of strikes.
Here's the part that you're not going to hear anywhere else. This is the Bass University TV exclusive.